Jay here for Stretford Paddock. That's Joe Smith. And this is a little chat about one of our favourite subjects. Yeah, the butcher, Lisandro Martinez, Argentina's finest, the World Cup winner, yeah? Eric Ten Hag's best signing. Yeah?
Possibly.
Yeah. Who else is that?
Casemiro?
No, not for me.
Okay.
There's a debate to be fair. We love Lisandro Martinez. Since he's come back into the team, he's given everyone a reminder, not that we need it, just how good he is and how good he can be as well. And we thought we'd just have a little bit of a chat, go through some of the stats, go through some of the performances, look at what he brings to the team and look at how important he's been, especially under Michael Carrick. I don't think there's any doubt that Martinez and Maguire, to be fair, next to him, have formed a real partnership that's been integral to the success that Manchester United have had over these last 5 games. So we thought we'd get into it. Get involved in the chat in the comments and let us know what you think. Joe, just first of all, when I say Lisandro Martinez, what do you think about? What do you think his sort of best attribute is as a defender? What is it about him that you really like?
I think, obviously, we'll talk about his on-the-ball stuff and the thing that's almost sort of unique to him. But I think as an actual defender, he goes under the radar how good he is as well. Yeah. I think people almost think, well, you know, he's not that big and he's not got quite everything that you would want from a top. He's maybe not the quickest across 60 yards or whatever. So therefore, he's sort of overcoming that with his ball playing ability. He's an excellent defender in and of itself. His duels won, both aerially, which might surprise people, and on the ground, are both in the sort of 90 or above percentile. He's someone that is very, very good and difficult to get past. He's an absolute handful. Like, I know that, again, he's only 5'9", but his aggression, the way he pushes attackers, the way his positioning is, which is excellent. He's very, very good defensively as well. I think that needs to be said more with him. It's almost like we have this trade-off where, oh, he's not very good at this, but look how good he is at this. He's very good across the board, and then he's world-class in certain areas. Yeah. And I think, like I said, he sort of fools people at times. You know, his ball recoveries are one of the best in the league as well. Like I said, his duels both on the ground and in the air are some of the best in the league, and I think he's just a very, very good all-round defender. And I'm sure we'll get onto the other bits of his game as well, where he's, I think, one of the best we've ever had at Manchester United in terms of his ball playing as well. Yeah,
one of the things that I like about Lisandro Martinez that you don't have a stat for it. There's no XG or there's no sort of graphic that you can show. Is how well he communicates with the rest of his team. He's a real leader in that defence. He talks to everyone. He G's people up. And I don't mean just walking around giving everyone a high five like some players do. I mean, you can see him throughout the game. He's a sort of real character there. And we've lacked a bit of that over the last few years. That's been a sort of a criticism of the team under Ten Hag when he wasn't there, the team under Ruben Amorim. It's one of those where, if you've got leaders on the pitch, if you've got people that are going to shout at people when they need it, if you've got people that are going to give people a bit of a kick up the backside, he does all those things. He seems to be a positive guy. He doesn't seem to be sort of criticising his teammates, but he's always communicating with them, and he seems to be the sort of a throwback to the successful teams under Sir Alex, when you had the likes of Pallister and Bruce or Stam or Rio or Vidic or whoever who would always be talking. If you look at all those teams we had under Fergie, it doesn't matter whether it was 93, whether it was 2013, all the successful teams had defenders that communicated well. And he's one of those, isn't it? He's one of those. You can see him on the pitch where he just, you know, and I mean this in a positive way, he almost never shuts up. He's always sort of talking to those around him. And I think you need a bit of that, don't you? Because that is an area where we've struggled, and he's someone that brings that to the team.
Yeah, he's phenomenal, his communication. I think at times, obviously, there was reports with him and Amorim sort of butting heads, metaphorically or maybe literally, in training. I think you do hear the odd thing that, you know, he is quite sort of himself. He's very strong. He's got a very strong personality. Sometimes that might rub people up the wrong way, but I think in his mind, he's doing that because he wants the standards to be high at Man United. You see it on the pitch, that he doesn't really, you know, I'm not saying he doesn't have a sense of humour, but he doesn't play with any kind of pissing around in his game. He's someone that takes everything 100% seriously all the time, and we need that. Like you said, at times you'll be playing with, you know, no offence to Luke Shaw, but he's not a sort of leadership type player, is he? Dalot on the other side again gets stuck in, gets involved, you know, likes being at the forefront of things, but isn't someone that you think, right, come on Dalot, take us through this game. How can we, you know, what can we do here? where with Martinez you do think that, and with Maguire next to him as well you do think that, and De Ligt as well, which we've not seen that partnership enough with him and Martinez. You think that as well, and it's absolutely crucial. You've got a young goalkeeper behind him, you've got Kobbie Mainoo in front of him, you've got, like we said, they're not inexperienced by any means, Luke Shaw and Dalot, but they're two players that are sort of on the more kind of quiet end of the spectrum in terms of their leadership. You need someone like him in there that can kind of marshal and shepherd that area. And that's what I mean, he's such an all-round good player. And then you add on the fact that, I mean, we might as well get into it, his passing ability is just astonishing. Not just his range of passing, and like you said, some things there isn't a stat for, but the little dummy and turn the other day against West Ham was an absolute thing of beauty when you've got the goalkeeper under pressure, you've got the defenders under pressure, and he's getting the ball with the player on his shoulder and gets out of it so comfortably. And he does that time and time and time again. And I honestly think he's comfortably the best ball-playing centre-back in the Premier League. I think on the ball, there's no one I would rather have than him. He's one of the best I've ever seen on the ball.
I think that's fair.
And like, trying to sort of chuck out some names, I mean, John Stones was very well known for a few years at City, so he'd be on that kind of list. I mean, obviously some of the great sort of Spanish centre-backs down the years have been good on the ball. Piqué was very good on the ball. Ramos to a lesser degree. I mean,
Rio was great on the ball.
Rio was great on the ball, of course, yeah, but of a generation earlier where the expectation was a little bit different. Yeah. You weren't necessarily being pressed quite as much as the modern day centre-backs are. Not that Rio couldn't handle that. But he's as good as I've ever seen. And those sort of little feints and those dummies, and the fact that if you're a goalkeeper and you don't know what to do, you're being pressed here, he's always there. And even if he's got a man on him, you can still pass him the ball, and almost every time he's going to get away. I think that that's such an underrated part of how United build up. And I think that you lose so much when he's not playing, and Heaven and Yoro are great players. But like we said, there's no one really in the Premier League, let alone at Man United, who can do what he does when he's not there. His passing ability, he's making 100 passes a game at the moment, with United having a bit more of the ball. And against Tottenham, I think he made 19 passes into the final third. And I think against West Ham, it was 21 attempts, 19 I think that were successful, which was 7 more than anyone else in the league that week. He made 16 against West Ham as well. So he's not just like getting the ball, playing it short to the midfielders. He's literally taking the ball from our goalkeeper a lot of the time and putting it into their final third or into our final third. That is like the most unbelievable set of skills you can have. He's making and creating attacks by himself as a centre back. That's not even his job. I just think he's such a good player, and someone that, you know, when Carrick came in, we got Martinez and Maguire back, we got Mbeumo and Ahmad back. Those four are such a phenomenal foundation for a team to sort of rest on. And obviously we've got Mainoo back as well for different reasons. I just think he's one of the big pillars of Man United. And the times we've been successful over the last 2 or 3 years, he's been fit and in the team regularly. When we finished third, it was him and Varane playing most weeks. You know, you look at last season.
Well, the wheels came off when he got injured, didn't they?
Yeah, they did completely.
He got injured in the Europa League. It was against Sevilla?
Sevilla in the first leg.
And then we get knocked out. I think we were 2-0 up at one point. By the time he got injured, I'm not sure we were 2-0 up, but he gets injured towards the end of that game. We draw 2-2. We get beat in the second leg. We go out. You fast forward a little bit further down the line, we lose the cup final to City. Yeah. And then you go a year later where he's in a cup final against Manchester City and we win. Yeah. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think he's such a good player that he played that. Obviously, he's part in it, and you've seen it this season. He's come in getting a lot of stick as well ahead of the derby. People looking at that and going, "This is." David against Goliath, where you've got Erling Haaland, who's just an absolute phenomenon, an absolute cyborg. How's Lisandro Martinez going to cope with him? We saw the likes of Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes questioning him, maybe being a little bit harsh with some of the comments, but there was a general sort of feeling, wasn't there, that this could be a bit of a mismatch. However, when you scratch beneath the surface, the stats didn't really back that up, because I think he'd played against Erling Haaland 6 times and Erling Haaland had only scored in one of those games. So he does have a good record against Haaland. But that game against him at Old Trafford, he was fantastic, wasn't he? Yeah. And he got the crowd going, and he sort of, you mentioned there about how he does have that edge to him. And we saw that at the end of the game, he's giving it all that. He's gone on social media and he's pushed back against, I think it was against Scholes and Butt. And he's right to do that. Like, people sort of question it, should he do that? I think you've got every right, if you get criticism, to push back on it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You've got to be able to take criticism as well, but you've also got the right to push back on it if you want. And he did that. And I think that's all okay as long as you can justify it with your performances.
Yeah.
If you're giving it the bigger before a game, like we saw with, was it Onana once before a game? He's like giving it all this. It was ahead of the Lyon game, and then we only just went through. You look a bit silly. But if you're doing it after a game where you've took a load of grief and you've delivered, I think you've got a right to say, look, if you want to chat to me, you can chat to me. Performances speak for themselves, and they certainly have done. And he's someone who has been questioned and criticised ever since he arrived at Old Trafford, and he silenced those critics. You remember Jamie Carragher on Monday Night Football, barely before he even kicked the ball, or maybe after the Brentford game, because I remember those first 2 games. He had a good game against Brighton. The Brentford game, there was one goal they scored where he basically trips over as he's trying to clear it, and it's like, oh, he's too small, and Carragher's having a go at him, and he's 5'9" or whatever. You can't cope, and he's not going to be able to survive in the Premier League. And he made everyone eat the words that season. That season, I think after about a few months, Jamie Carragher admitted it. He said, I got it wrong. So this is a player who's obviously got the quality and the ability, and what he lacks in height, he makes up for, and he's reading the game. And I also think as well, we need to be a bit honest about his height and how big an effect that is. Players and teams don't whip balls into tall strikers much anyway. It's not like the 1990s where you'd have 2 up top in almost every team, and like Eric and Mark Hughes, and you'd have wingers getting down the line and just whipping crosses in. That isn't what the game's about anymore. Most teams have 1 striker. Yeah. Some teams don't even have any. And it's very rare you get sort of 2 strikers that you've got with height that you've got to deal with. And even when he has got to deal with it, he tends to deal with it. It's not like it's a massive flaw in his game. And if it's a set piece, then you're not going to stick him necessarily on the biggest players. So I just think it's a bit misleading when people keep going on about his height, because as you just mentioned, his aerial duels are very successful, and it's not an issue at all. People are just trying to make it one, and it isn't.
No. And it's weird, like, with certain players and certain managers and certain things, like, they almost have a narrative that's built about them before they even arrive, and everyone is just desperate for them to fulfil that narrative. Like, with him, it was, he's too short for the Premier League, it can't work. And like you said, after 2 games, Jamie Carragher was more than happy to sort of run with that and say, it's been proven right, there you go, no good. And even with Paul Scholes and Nicky Butt, that picking him up and running with him, that's only because he's short. Yeah. That's not because of his style or because he's someone that gets pushed around. He's like someone like, not to kind of drag people for no reason, but Victor Lindelof was a player that I think did get bullied physically by players. And he wasn't 5'9", he was over 6 foot, and yet he was someone that you could imagine getting picked up and ran into the back of the net. Obviously, even then it's, he's still taking the piss. But people have just decided he's this thing, and any evidence that proves it, sort of, I've won now. I mean, I think after the game the other day, Paul Scholes came out and sort of basically backtracked on what he said. He said, I underrated Lisandro Martinez. He killed Bowen during the West Ham game. Not the tallest of defenders, but his aggression suits the Premier League perfectly. And his ball movement from the back, he's proven he's not too small for this league at all. And he's not. No, like you said, of all the times to be a 5'9" centre-back, now's probably the best one stylistically. And his passing, it sort of just goes under the radar. I think, like, you sort of take these things for granted. Like when, we have a goalkeeper, for so long we wanted a keeper that could play out from the back. And then someone like Onana comes in who can do it a bit. And then Lomans comes in. And Lomans is very good at playing out from the back. Yeah. But people don't give him credit for it because he's not thought of as a goalkeeper that plays out from the back. Yeah. How many times has he misplaced a short pass or fumbled under pressure since he arrived? None.
It's because he doesn't spend half the game on the halfway line.
Yeah.
People notice it more when you're like Edison, who used to stand on the halfway line. Everyone's like, oh, he's like a sweeper. Or Manuel Neuer was obviously famous for it. But Lomans tends to stay in his box. Yeah, any time the ball's to his feet, you don't worry, do you? No. He's pretty comfortable whether it's going long or short. And it massively helps if you are going short when you've got a player like Martinez. And you mentioned it earlier, that one the other day where Martinez is under pressure, Bowen's on his back. Yeah. And Bowen's a very talented player as well, let's not forget. And he just makes it look easy. A little bit of skill and he's away. And I think that's going to help you massively if you're a goalkeeper like Senna Lomans, who's come into this league. You've already had 3 managers at Manchester United, which is kind of insane. You've got the most difficult job in the team, being the goalkeeper. It's all on you. There's not, no one can get you out of jail there. It's all on you. And yet he's had a pretty smooth ride of it. And I think a big part of that, not all of it, because Martinez didn't play all of the games that he's been there, but a big part of it, especially recently, has been having Martinez in front of you who can do those things, not just a great defender, but also you can pass him the ball when he's under pressure and he makes it look easy. It's just, it does seem to me as though, from what we've seen over these 5 games, that Martinez is integral to what Carrick wants to do. And do you know what the funny thing about that is? We said the same about Ruben Amorim. Me and you sat here, do you remember? And it was like, how much is he missing Martinez? Remember, he scored against Fulham, he was playing really well, and then he got injured, and we were struggling. And we kept saying, Martinez suits Ruben Amorim system so well. Martinez is, he's missing him. If he had him in it, it'd be a different story. Eric Ten Hag, we said the same thing.
100%.
We said it, didn't we? As soon as he got injured, things went wrong. He's missing Martinez. You mean Martinez back? Martinez comes back, the results pick up. I know he had a little bit of a one where he came back a bit too soon earlier on in the season, a couple of seasons ago, but once he was back to his best and fit, it was like, look, this is what we've been missing. That's 3 managers we've said it about, from Lisandro Martinez, Ten Hag, Amorim, and Michael Carrick, that this guy is essential to their system or their team. It's just a case of he can play in almost any system. He can play for any manager, obviously in defence, and he's just class. I think that's what it is, isn't it?
I mean, even the game under, was it Fletcher, where he was playing as a defensive mid? Or was that under Amorim? I can't remember. The couple of games when Maynard was injured, Bruno was injured, everyone was injured, and he came in and played as a defensive midfielder. It looked excellent there. Yeah. He looked brilliant on the ball again. Like, he's just, like we said, it kind of boils down to really good players are the thing that matter most at a football club. We say it all the time, but having someone like him who is in there on the ball and defensively as well, like I said, I don't want it to be the case where people build this narrative that, you put up with his defending because he's so good on the ball. He's very good at both. If occasionally, like you said, maybe once a season or so, he might lose a header at the back post, he more than makes up for that with his all-round defending ability, his ball-playing ability, his leadership, and like we said, the fact that he instantly makes himself completely crucial to every manager that he gets a run of games under. Yeah. He's just a top-class centre-back. And weirdly, with a lot of top-class centre-backs, I don't want to come out and say he's world-class because he's not played enough games over the last 12 months to be put in that kind of conversation yet. But what we have seen of him at Manchester United, he is in that top echelon of players if he can stay fit, and I really hope he can. But I don't want it to be a case where we allow this sort of thing to come back again of like, oh, Martinez is all right, but this happens all the time, or he gets picked up and runs to the back of the net. It's just not true. He's a fantastic player. When he plays as well, I think our sort of expected goals against per 90 is one of the best in the league, like defensively, offensively, top player. And as I said before, one of the best ball-playing centre-backs I've seen in my entire life. I think he's absolutely world-class on that front for sure. Just one final question. Sooner or later, we expect this team to have a title challenge in him. That's the goal in it. That's what United should be aspiring to. Hopefully next season, if not the season after. Can you see him lifting a title at United? Do you think he's good enough to win a title at United? 100%. Yeah. I think who knows what will happen with De Ligt. That's going to be an interesting one in the summer. I'm not saying we're going to sell him or anything, but how many games does he play between now and the end of the year? Backs are just a weird thing that, ask Rio Ferdinand how hard it is for them to go away. He still spends a few days in hospital every few years with his. It's, backs can be a terrible lifelong problem. Yeah. So that needs sorting out. The person, maybe whether it's Yoro, whether it's Heaven, or De Ligt, we'll see. But as one of your centre-backs being Lisandro Martinez, you already got a phenomenal basis for a brilliant partnership in there. It'd be nice to see a partnership build as well, because we saw it with Varane. And that was a partnership that was certainly good enough to win a league title. Obviously, the rest of the team wasn't there. But I think him playing 25 to 30 games with a single partner next season, I reckon if he stays fit and plays 25 or 30 starts in the Premier League next season, Lisandro Martinez, I think top 4 is almost guaranteed. I think he's that important to us, and obviously the rest of it comes on top of that. But yeah, I think he's a phenomenal player and well worthy of winning the Premier League one day, hopefully. One day soon, hopefully. Yep. Love that, Joe. Thank you. Make sure you go and check out Joe on the Sloppy Joe's podcast. You know where to find me. Don't forget as well to check out our merch. There's a link in the description. Loads of merch there. Appreciate it. That's been Joe Smith. I'm Jay Motti. Make sure you get involved in the chat and the comments. This has been a video about the butcher, Lisandro Martinez. Thanks for watching.